Hey, kia ora koutou whānau, ki te piha koe. Welcome to a brand new episode of Big Hairy News. Chewy, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Pat. We've been called out, just straight into it. Minute late.
Sheesh. Are we actually a minute late? We probably are. I apologise. I actually blame fucking TVNZ for it. Don't they know we're trying to put together some kind of pirated show here where we use all their content for our own good?
Don't get me started on the mainstream media, man. Or should I say, the lamestream media. Sorry, my eyes aren't wide enough.
TV3 is pretty good, actually. They get their clips up on YouTube quite quickly. It's actually showing a bit behind the curtain here. It's one of the reasons we probably use News Hub clips more than TVNZ, is they get their stuff up on YouTube quite quickly. TVNZ does not. So I had a story about David Seymour, right? And I watched it on the live news. I went, cool, we'll do that. They don't have the clip up anywhere. They don't have it on YouTube. They don't have it on their own channel. So the last few minutes was me going, oh, shit, and having to scroll through the on-demand to find it, which I've done. Which you can see here like that. See, so that's the story. So it's 13 minutes into what was a live thing. So I apologize that I was late a little bit by 60 seconds, but here we are. Hey, Chewy.
Yes, Pat.
It was 22 degrees in Dunedin today.
Isn't that amazing? Just such a lovely spring day, and it'd be nice just to relax in the sun and just push out of your mind. The climate's completely fucked.
Wow, 22 degrees in Dunedin. We're still winter? Or are we officially spring?
Well, Facebook reminded me that this time last year was a snowstorm. So, yeah.
And people say there's no such thing as climate change in the space of 12 months. Look what's happened, Chewy.
Well, I did see some stuff of what's his name on Twitter? Dairyman. Posting up some of his stats from his dairy farm and just pointing out the fact that things are really, really out of whack considering this time last year. And I think we're staring down the barrel of an El Nino summer that could be hotter than we've ever had before.
I know it's a strange thing. For people who are in regions like Central Otago, Northland, Waikato, Canterbury, who get droughts, in Dunedin, the average summer temperature here is only like about 20. So you get a hot one, you get like 23 degrees days. It makes it kind of nice, actually. But I know that causes trouble elsewhere, so it's very selfish of me. But I was going to say, Chewy, you might not have heard of this thing that we're doing. I freaked out a couple of people in Dunedin today because I did deliveries. And because one of the deliveries was for 3 hoodies, I thought, I'm not going to leave this on the porch in case a porch pirate wants to see it and take it. So I knocked on the door. People over there, and they were like, and I was like, I kind of freaked them out. I apologize. And then Nicole out towards the airport, out towards the motorway, dropped one off to her as well. And she was there, and I knocked on the door and handed it to her. And so I was delivering hoodies today. So there are some Dunedinites who have themselves some hoodie. But in honor of our day, tonight's promo code for free delivery is 22 degrees. One word, 22 degrees. Is the promo code for tonight. Now, if you're just joining us, this is our merch. We typically have merch that is kind of looking like what would you call it? Ideological merch. And we don't hide the fact that we are left-leaning here, although I do think we're fair to everybody, as will be seen tonight when we ridicule Willie Jackson and the ridiculous thing that Chippy did today by releasing a list of things they're going to do in the first 100 days right after National releases their list of things they're going to do. Like, just once again, Labour following National's narrative, ridiculous. But we do sit on the left. We don't hide that at all. And so you can buy hoodies or T-shirts that say, if the left vote, the left wins, which is still completely true, albeit looking less likely every single day. And if you buy one of those before the end of the episode tonight, which is we put in there for 10:30, and you use the promo code 22 degrees, you get free delivery. Now, let me tell you, in the last 2 days delivering what are they called? Hoodies and t-shirts. The most expensive delivery I think I did was $14. So it's a pretty good deal getting free delivery. Most deliveries are around the $9 mark, but the most expensive delivery was $14. So you think about that on a $50 t-shirt, getting $5 to $9 off, that's what delivery would be. Then good on you. Although if you do choose to buy something and include the delivery, we only charge you $5. We kind of split the difference with you. So there's BHN hoodies, there's BHN t-shirts, and there's If the Left Votes, the Left Wins hoodies and t-shirts as well. All you do is head to bhnshop.nz, and that just supports what we're doing. Very, very grateful to you guys who have come on board to support what we're doing. It's been a real blessing, and it's paid a few bills. When I say bills, I mean purely some bills that we get for doing this. hasn't paid other bills. It's just paid for a few things that don't have to come out of our back pocket. So very, very grateful for you guys getting on board with that. bhnshop.nz. We're going to run this for 2 more weeks. Well, this week and next week. And then we'll be wrapping up this one and doing something else. I actually had a look tonight, Chewy, at some beard oil. Buying beard oil in bulk, and maybe doing a beardy boy. There's the beardy boy guy. Some beardy boy beard oil and some beard products as well. So we're keeping on thinking. Nice. I'm wearing my favorite cap tonight. I'm going to go full screen so people can see my cap. You see my favorite cap? This is my favorite cap. You like it? The Latino Day of the Dead. That's what that is. It's a baseball team, minor league baseball team that has a Day of the Dead day. It's my favorite baseball cap.
Nice.
There you go. I'm tangenting already, Chewy. Sorry, do you want to bring us back to some kind of normality?
Yes, I want to acknowledge what should be a national sport at this time of year, the championship level vandalizing of political billboards.
Right.
And as we said, we lean to the left. Doesn't mean that we can't acknowledge some truly masterful.
We can say we're further than leaning. I mean, we'll be honest.
Yeah,
we're raving.
But as you said, we're fair, and we can acknowledge some truly masterful vandalism, no matter what the political party is on the receiving end. So I found this one.
The time is now. Party vote green. Walk.
And I like that someone probably had a plan here. And the plan was to spray paint woke on it, and has run out of billboards. And I've always acknowledged that the Green Party is very woke. Love a stir fry to the Green Party.
I feel like we could go and put a little bit of paper or something up beside it and put an E on it just for them, because they tried so very, very hard. What did I see today? I saw one of our favorite female conspiracy theorists talking about cell phones in schools. And she goes, it doesn't take much brain power to figure out, And I went, well, you're the perfect person then to actually solve this problem if it doesn't take much brain power. What the heck? So very good. Okay, here's something else for you then, so we can just ruin our tangents in the start. Many people may have seen this because it was a story last night. Kanoa Lloyd off the platform. Have you seen? Is it the platform? No, sorry, the project. The error that she made last night. Have a listen to this.
But first, longtime fans of Cadbury Rose's chocolates will be saying thank you very much with the return of 3 original flavours. After getting ditched back in 2018, strawberry cream, orange cream and peppermint cream are making a comeback.
Come back is the term, I believe.
Wow.
So Cadbury Roses have got themselves into the Cumbox market, which is pretty good.
This is not.
That's it. Shut it down.
Quite a good comeback here. This one.
The show is going well. So, everything's going well.
So there's the Roses chocolates, the Kiwi tradition.
You know things are going bad when the people in the production office they cut to me to steady the ship.
And then they just flounder for a few minutes and it gets kind of a bit cringy. But yes, so apparently Rose's chocolates have the Cumbox coming out, which is probably quite salty.
As well. It's dreadful chocolate. Blah.
Anyway, lots going on tonight. We have lots to talk about, including Bomber's debate last night. And can I just say, watch Bomber's debate. In fact, he kind of watched it twice because I actually listened to it while I was running the dog and delivering hoodies and stuff. And then I came back, I jotted down some numbers, and I watched about half of it again to get the spots that I wanted to play tonight. Willie Jackson is not an asset for the Labour Party. No. Willie Jackson got the tone all wrong. He was thinking it was a jovial, jokey, matey kind of thing. And whilst there was lots of jeering and bawdiness, he was playing it like they were all mates in the pub. And actually, there was some quite serious conversations going on. And he didn't read the room, and he did Labour a massive disservice. I think he performed appallingly. And I think that people will look at his performance on that. Forget the controversy that's come out today about him getting all his facts wrong, but he will look at the performance from that and go, if this is a fucking minister of the crown, what low bar must be set to become a minister in this government? So he did very poorly. And the person who did best of all is John Tamihere. Like just hands down, the best statements. There's a particular quote, I've already tweeted it out today, that he said at one stage, and I actually had to stop and go, whoa, that was like, it cut through everything. So we're going to show you some of that as we go through the night. The thing with Willie Jackson is, how do I say this? I have a lot of background information from being in broadcasting. I'll just say it, right? People think we're Labourites. This won't make me very popular with the Labour group. There are people who have worked with Willie, including in government, including in cabinet, that have used the term, and this is not my term, have used the term, he's performed far beyond his station, right? That's what someone who has been in a cabinet room with him has said to me. He has done incredibly well for himself, probably performed beyond where his skill set could be. And I reckon you saw that in the debate last night. Okay. You know, when David Seymour is kind of more lighthearted, funnier, and better at performing on you, you're doing something very, very wrong. You're doing something very, very wrong. So for all of those of you who think that we're shills for the Labour Party, I think I just got our pay pack just knocked back by 40% there, Chewy. And I'm just repeating some inside goss that people who have worked with Willie in cabinet have said to me. Whilst that I won't even say where they were because that might connect me to them. So anyway, yeah. Also, the Greens were non-performative. They didn't particularly bring anything to the party. New Zealand First didn't really either. Paul Goldsmith was okay. You know, he performed quite well. David Seymour performed quite well, and John Tamihere was pretty outstanding. The thing about John Tamihere though is he's not an MP. He's the president, so you know he's not going to be the one sitting there making decisions on a day-to-day basis. But there's a very quick critique for you, Chewy. But yeah, I would, if I was the Labour Party, I wouldn't be letting Willie Jackson out fronting any of my media as the Minister of fucking Broadcasting. All right.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. Minister of Broadcasting, we should have heard heaps from him over the past month. We've heard nothing.
Yeah. Thing is, he's a good broadcaster.
Yeah, he's a great broadcaster.
Yeah, but that's it. I mean, not all of us who are great broadcasters would be good ministers of the crown. You know, it's just
I would be excellent.
Oh, Deb says JT's on the list. I wasn't aware of that. Okay, what number is he? Can we have a look at that? I don't. Was it he? JT is a extraordinarily gifted politician and a really, really smart dude. Like a really smart dude. I'll try and get him on. I'll try and get JT on.
You probably have better chance of that than Willie Jackson now.
I've actually said this about Willie Jackson before, but so he's on number 28. Someone says so he's not going to get in, so he's just on the list, I guess. Hey, let's have a look at a little bit of news that's come out today that's been going around, and this is, I think, has a bit to do. This is the News Hub version of the story. So I watched the TVNZ news. So we're going to watch this all together at the right time. Ticking robots and massaging the truth. So this is about what happened with Willie Jackson at the actual debate. But also, yeah, some Labor MPs have been told to pull their heads in and get their facts right. So this is off News Hub tonight.
Labor's under fire for a number of its candidates and current MPs spreading misinformation about the other side's policies.
And News Hub can reveal Chris Hipkins.
Just remember the difference between mis and disinformation. Mis is accidentally, dis is on purpose. So they're messing up what, like the Willie Jackson example is he said, and I probably shouldn't preempt this, but he said that if National gets in, they're going to lower the minimum wage. And then he went, no. He said they're going to get rid of the minimum wage. And then he went, they're going to lower the minimum wage. And what he meant
that's shit.
What he meant was they're going to stop raises. They'll freeze. That's what he meant to say, but he stuffed it up. So that goes out just like anybody else. He got it wrong. They've corrected it, which is good, but he got it wrong, and you can't be getting these things wrong.
Has given his team a telling off after we showed him examples of their post-truth politics. Here's political editor Jenny Lynch.
Tickled pink, tickling Pepper.
Tickle me.
Pepper the robot's an artificially intelligent
No, thank you.
humanoid. But it's not artificial intelligence causing problems for Labor, it's artificial facts.
Are you committed to a completely honest and clean campaign?
Yes.
Are you going to tell your candidates to be honest?
Is there a particular issue?
Well, there are a few. Willie Jackson getting carried away at a debate last night.
Under this law and this law, it's all gone.
Claiming National Enact would abolish the minimum wage.
They'll get rid of the minimum wage.
No.
They'll put
Get rid of the minimum wage. He admitted that was wrong. It was a heat of the moment debate, and he said something that wasn't true.
His correction wrong too.
Well, they'll lower the minimum wage. You know, they're so selfish.
Oh, that is rough.
In real terms, if you don't increase the minimum wage, which is the ex-party's proposal, then in real terms that is effectively.
Okay, don't, Christopher Hipkins. Don't. In real terms, if you freeze the minimum wage, it will be like lowering it because of inflation. No, just cop the mistake. Say it was wrong. In the heat of the moment, it's fine. It was wrong. What we mean to say is, what we believe is, they won't increase the minimum wage. Don't try and justify it, Hipkins. You look foolish and weak.
A lowering of the minimum wage.
We would not lower it, so that's just misinformation.
I think everybody knows that Willie's a very passionate person.
To clarify,
Will you abolish the minimum wage?
No.
Will you lower the minimum wage?
No.
Jackson's not the only one dealing in alternative facts. In a Facebook post, Andrew Little said National Enact would flog off the schools and sack all the teachers.
Will you sack all the teachers?
No.
Sack all the teachers. That's ridiculous. He's lying.
I haven't seen that comment.
So we showed him.
It's just a Facebook post right here.
I haven't seen it. So
it's highlighted there.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable?
Look, I'll go away and have a look at it and have a conversation with them about it. But certainly I think we should make sure that the statements that we're making stack up.
The Labor Party is incredibly desperate and they will say and do anything they can to try and win an election.
And this just plays into the narrative.
Simeon agrees.
But this just plays into the narrative. And this is the thing, yeah? This plays into the narrative. It's like, yep, see, they'll do anything. They'll lie. They'll do all of these sorts of things. So if you're not squeaky clean, you're playing into the narrative of being dirty. If you're not, if you don't get all your information out there, then you're playing into the narrative of not being organized. If you've got, MPs around you jumping ship and doing stuff, you're playing into the narrative of being chaotic, and they can't afford to do it, or else they're going to lose. Now,
Don't
many
give
will say,
Seymour gifts like this.
yeah, you tee it up, knock it down.
Wait, there's more. On Labor MP Shannon Halbert's Facebook, someone commented National would decrease sick leave to 5 days. Halbert says that's correct. That's not correct.
I'm happy to look at it.
The Greens co-leader needed to go look at his socials too to correct his study history.
Do you have a BA?
No.
Why does your LinkedIn say that you do?
Oh, actually, I haven't looked at my LinkedIn in years. I mean, I'll take a look at it, but ultimately, when I put that stuff on my LinkedIn, I put the dates that I was there, studied towards a BA, but I've always been very open. I've kind of, joked about it quite a lot, that my qualification for this job is that I'm a middle-class white guy with half a degree in world religions.
This afternoon, a note was added saying he did not complete his study.
Kia ora, Jenna. So what's Chris Hipkins going to do about his party's misinformation problem?
Some people will look at this and say
Can I just say, Mike McRoberts, their misinformation problem, that feels a little bit like the, collapse in the polls when they went down 2% and National fell 2.5%. Problem, clean up maybe. Mm.
The whole truth
I mean-
and nothing but the truth is never a politician's default setting. But this stuff really matters. This is a party that has fought a war on misinformation, and to have candidates spreading mistruths undermines faith in democracy, also undermines trust in the leader. That is one
Yeah,
of the
look,
indicators.
I don't know about faith in democracy. That's a bit heavy-handed, but certainly faith in the party and the leader. Yeah, that's completely fair, and that's why they've got to get it right. Everyone has to get it right.
That Chris Hipkins has over Chris Luxon. Getting caught up in the heat of a debate like Willie Jackson can probably be forgiven, but that social media stuff, they know that that is wrong. Now, I've been told that Chris Hipkins told Andrew Little to take down that post saying that National was going to sack all the teachers, and he has also, following News Hub's questions today, read a riot act to all of his candidates to tell the truth, because there is enough actual policy to debate without spreading mistruths.
Yeah.
All right, there you go, Chewy. Have at it, son.
Well, yeah, some important and fair points there. Going after Shaw for a LinkedIn is pretty rats
To
and
the
mice, though, isn't it? Like, who looks at their LinkedIn?
So I can tell. Do you want the background to that? The background to
Yeah,
that
go on.
is Karen Plunkett. Karen
Oh, of
Plunkett has
course.
been working with Ian Wishart on an expose, and they did it today. Apparently, I've been sent a link from someone saying, he did a big long bit about, his big get was Karen in the middle of a message said, now he said this publicly several times that he doesn't have a BA, but on his LinkedIn it says he's got a BA. Trust this, trust that. It's kind of I'd be interested. I might look at my BA because I've studied some courses that I haven't completed, and it's got the years I was at a university. But I don't know whether that means I don't know whether you'd read that as you've got the BA or you're at that university during that time studying the BA. I guess most people would read it as I've got the BA, but it's not really there's no smoking gun here. What do you think? Do you know that's why all you young people out there who are about to university, that's why they call a BA a bugger all when you get to the end of university with a bugger all, because it kind of means nothing. It's not like a BA is going to open doors. Oh my God, the only reason he's in Parliament now is because he's got a BA. It's not really a smoking gun.
I mean, personally, I think the most relatable comment out of there is Shaw going, "Oh, it's been years since I've looked at LinkedIn." That's very relatable. And I assume since she's on a tear here that Jenna then went on to critique and go through the other guys' social media and claims. That's coming, right? That's the next bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I don't expect she'll go through any ACT Party ones, but she'll certainly go through National, because, as we know, she very rarely. In fact, I think we have one example of her critiquing ACT, but very rarely does anything around ACT.
I would be all for this bit if it was everyone, because it is shit. I think there's enough to hammer National on without making up absolute bullshit. Like, as far as I know, there's no legal way that you could roll back minimum wage or sell schools. Like sure, Willie Jackson getting all tither at a live debate. Andrew Little's been around for long enough to know that was bullshit. What's he doing?
So this is what I would say if it was the National Party, right? And we're consistent here, no matter what people think. What I would say is they were either ill-informed or they were lying. Neither of those two outcomes are okay. Either they didn't know, which is not okay, especially if you are a member of Parliament who was in government, or they were lying, which is obviously not okay. And it just feeds into the narrative that the opposition wants to set up. It confirms it for everybody.
It's a gift. It's like I said, it's an absolute gift to give that to Seymour and go, so you're going to do this? No, what a fool. It's just, come on, guys. This is a close race. You can't whiff it. You got to bring your A game.
Really quickly as well, the other thing Labor did today is, let me just drag this across and put it in front. They had an announcement today where they sort of released, I guess, the equivalent of what Luxon did over the weekend. That's the National ones, right? They listed 5 economic priorities if re-elected. And these are and look, I think this is weak politics. Yeah, this is what they've said they'll do. Because remember what National said. These things, they go into lower inflation and grow the economy. They let you keep more of what you earn, unless of course your kids catch buses, and then you'll have less. They're going to build infrastructure, Chewy. Oh,
It's
so in
kind of
other
like
words,
a bare minimum, right?
well, but some other in other
What I
words,
expect the government to do.
if they build one road that's 20 meters long, they can tick that box. That's literally all it says. They're going to restore law and order. We'll see. They're going to lift school achievement. We'll see. They're going to cut health waiting times. We'll see. They're going to support seniors. What? So they're kind of promises that mean nothing and could be picked apart very easily by just simply saying to these politicians, what's your metric? How are you going to restore law and order? How are you going to measure that? How are you going to measure supporting seniors? You can measure deliver net zero carbon by 2050. There's an easy measurement there. How are you going to measure build infrastructure? Is it literally going to be one bridge being replaced in the east coast of the North Island? Or is there a plan for what that means? Well, I kind of think, unfortunately, it appears Labor's sort of following suit. Labor's economic priorities for the next term will be grow an expert-led economy with strong global reputation.
What we've got already. We've got that.
What's the metric for that? Turn New Zealand into a centre of excellence for sustainable agriculture and agricultural technology. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like someone's written a press release. The new person's come to the ninth floor. The new PR person, they've written the press release and they're using every fucking buzzword they can to make sure the press release looks good. They are going to be a global leader in renewable energy. They're going to harness New Zealand's digital creativity and expertise. What the fuck does that mean? They're going to harness New Zealand's digital creativity and expertise. What does that even mean? They're going to harness it. What? They're going to boost our premium tourism offerings. So look, you know, we had the conversation the other week. Give us something to vote for. And we will vote for you. All parties, give us something to vote for. We're going to have a look at something at the moment that's going to give some people a reason to vote for National, and that's 10,000 charging stations. Right? They've put a metric out there. They've said what they're going to do, and they've said we will build 10,000 public EV charging stations. That is a policy that some people will go, that'd help me. I'd vote for that. Harnessing New Zealand's digital creativity and expertise, yeah, not quite so much. I know that sticks in your goat a little bit there, Chewy, me saying that some people will vote for that, but it's true, isn't it? It will work.
So, with that list that you just read out, right? Do you know what it reminds me of as someone that has seen a few of these in this time? A CV, job application. And it's just like, shit, I gotta make the fact that I worked in a petrol station for 4 years sound pretty good.
I'm a petroleum delivery expert.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Yeah.
And look, yeah, you're exactly right. Like when I saw the news headlines about Luxon talking about EV chargers, that's something I care about. So my ears pricked up. And I went, oh, okay. I did a little bit of digging, which I'll get into in a little bit. But
well, we're going to do the whole story.
Yep, that's why I'm shutting my mouth now.
Because I know. But by the way, there's some massive holes in this, obviously, because it's national. Massive holes in this that we'll get into.
Oh, unbelievable!
All I'm saying though, as a headline article to vote for, that's something. Free dentistry for the Greens, that's something. You know, the Māori Party, tax-free, under $30,000. That's something. Whatever that, yes. I've actually already deleted that page, whatever it was, or that word salad of buzzwords. Meh. You know what I mean? So I'm not even saying this to support any one party. There's 3 examples of things to vote for given a headline. Now, yes, I know people don't panic. Don't panic, baby birds. I'll feed you. There are holes in the national situation, which we will be going into, but as a headline policy, we don't talk about Christopher Luxon's holes. We've talked about this before. As a headline policy, it's a vote grabber, and people will go, that's something I could vote for. Of course, the addendum is if you can afford an EV after they take over. But we'll get to that, won't we, Chewy? We'll get to that, won't we?
Oh, I've got a list.
Okay. All right, let's keep going. We're going to do the bomber debate thing last. So let's just jump over. Now, hopefully this all works okay, because this is actually One News's live stream. So this is the ACT Party and what Luxon and ACT got up to today. And Seymour being a little bit pissy, actually. Being a little bit pissy about being questioned about quite a significant issue that they have a lot of candidates running away from them. And we're not entirely sure why, but when he gets questioned on it, he's not very happy about it.
Campaign trail now. The revelation, a fourth ACT candidate has quit, had the party leader fuming when questioned by One News. David Seymour was in Auckland unveiling a regulation policy, while Chris Hipkins put the spotlight on the economy. Here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
David Seymour rocking up with excessive regulation.
Got to say, and we talked about that No More Labour Pains was a pretty good chant. The colouring for ACT, the pink, works really well to stand out from billboards. And it's a from a marketing point of view. I mean, they've got the war chest. They've done pretty well with their colours and their branding. I mean, maybe not so much their messaging, but their branding.
Regulations on his mind. Among his targets, nappy cream rules for daycares.
The big issue.
Nappy cream has been subject to some outrageous regulations. At one point, every application had to be recorded.
But he went from cutting red tape to seeing red when we asked about his Waikato candidate, the latest to quit the party.
If that's what you think makes a story,
Well, I mean, your political candidate's leaving does make a story, right?
Yeah.
That is
maybe for you, but if you want to run that story, you go for it.
Why do you think your MPs and your candidates shouldn't be subject to scrutiny?
Well, I actually don't think that.
Multiple ACT candidates have left in recent weeks, some after their COVID-related views came to light.
They're dropping like flies. Are you worried about that?
I'm focused on the National Party. Look, I just refer you to David Seymour's own comments where he basically said that turmoil within your party list is a sign of turmoil within your party. He probably needs to have a good look in the mirror.
But Chris,
good line. And this is where we look to Chippy, and we did this the other day when he brought out those pages from Taxpayers Union of Attack ads, and we go, is he leaving his run too late? Is this what we're going to see in the debates? Good line, good comeback, good messaging from Chippy on that.
Chris Hipkins had some reflecting of his own to do today after Willie Jackson got loose with the truth in this raucous debate.
They'll get rid of the minimum wage. They'll put
get rid of the minimum wage.
They'll lower the minimum wage. They're so selfish, and it goes on and on.
It was a heat of the moment debate, and he said something that wasn't true, and he openly acknowledged that he'd said something that wasn't true.
Labour today, though, was focused on the future. The party revealing its economic playlist. If returned to power, Chris Hipkins would take a trade delegation to India and look to grow exports by investing in technology.
So, big announcement. We'll take a trade delegate to India. Exactly the kind of thing that the opposition's talking about, bureaucrats and wasted money. You know what I mean? Playing into the narrative. It's like, so take a sojourn over there on the taxpayer, will you? I'm not saying that's what it is.
No,
I'm saying
there's a better
that's
way
the
to
narrative,
pitch it, right?
Here's our big idea. We're going to go to India with a bunch of people. Hire us.
There's a better way to pitch that, and you can talk about how much of an emerging market India is, the massive population that it has, the areas of growth for our exports. None of that was hit because none of that was reported.
Yep.
But yeah, 100%. You're right. It just sounds weak.
It does.
Back in Epsom, Mr. Seymour was still stewing.
It's one of the things that really erodes the trust in journalism and my personal respect for some people is when their priorities are still wrong.
So when reporters ask you about your candidates, you lose trust in journalism?
No, it's not that being asked about the candidates. It's the level of emphasis.
ACT will be hoping it doesn't lose anyone else with the election fast approaching.
Benedict is here with us. We've just seen in your story ACT leader David Seymour. He seems to be feeling the pressure, Benedict.
Well, that's right. I mean, it didn't take long from today to go from talking about nappy cream to spitting the dummy himself. Look, it's the second time in a week that David Seymour has reacted in this way when One News has questioned him about the behaviour of his MPs or about his candidates. And what's interesting to me here is, like, we ask political leaders tough questions all the time. This isn't anything out of the ordinary. Sure, they might not like answering those questions, but they front up and they do answer them, right? They don't behave, they don't react like David Seymour is at the moment. So that's interesting. But I also think the way the polls are going at the moment, right, there's a very real chance that that David Seymour and multiple ACT Party MPs are going to be around the cabinet table pretty soon, and that is going to bring an enormous amount of scrutiny with it, not less.
A long way to go.
So there you go. So that's the situation around David Seymour. That little double up there with the thing about Willie Jackson as well, Minister Jackson. But the other thing that they didn't quite get to in that story is the idea that they, sorry, I'm just trying to do two things at once. There we go. The idea that they are doing so well in the polls. Why would Seymour, unless he can't help it, take such a kind of pissy stand? Surely what he wants to be doing at the moment is getting as many, he wants to go from 15% to 16% to 18% to 19%, and kind of being difficult might not help him get there. And I just wondered, he's doing so well, why would he care? Why would he care about almost any headline? We don't know why the person resigned yet. The person resigned for personal reasons. You know, as soon as we have more information, we'll give it to you. But just basically to go, well, that's not a story. Why would you want to run that? It's just, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what it is, unless it's something really massive that we're going to find out about.
Yeah, that's my feeling, and maybe not necessarily about the candidate that's resigned, right? I think this is Seymour being very sensitive about.
He is a sensitive soul.
About why people have resigned from his party.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's there. What was it, a week ago or so, where they went through, or we spoke about it on this show about how fucking many moonbats are on his list that would be getting into the House. And I've said multiple times on this show that I think one of David Seymour's great achievements in the last term is keeping a lid on how crazy some of his candidates are.
Well, but it's more than that, though, because it's not just his candidates; it's the guys on the list who weren't his candidates the last time around. So there's a whole bunch of new people that have come up into the reckoning as well.
And, you know, Seymour might not believe the things that a lot of his supporters or even his own members believe. But he's encouraged it so much that he hasn't really got anywhere to turn. And I just wonder what his reaction is going to be like to that. I don't think, like, anti-vax COVID conspiracy stuff is really his bag. I've seen him push back against some of these guys and street corner meetings and that sort of thing. But now they've coalesced around his party in a way that I don't think he really knows how to solve. Yeah.
No, for sure. All right, very quickly, one more time for tonight. If you want to participate in our drop for this month, bhnshop.nz, the gear's all there. If you ordered gear, either BHN gear or If the Left Votes gear, last week, it's all been put on the courier now, bar one person who changed their size. You know who you are. What's come out from this week. We order again in 24 hours from now. So if you want your order to go out next week, if you want your If the Left Votes, the Left Wins shirt to be to you by the end of next week, then you can get in tonight to bhnshop.nz. Promo code tonight is 22 degrees, numbers 22, and then the word degrees. And if you enter that into bhnshop.nz for any of the merch, you get free delivery to night. Now, Chewy, I know that you're chomping at the bits to get to this one, so let's just get straight to it, shall we? Let's talk about EVs, babies.
We have one public EV charger for every 95 EVs in the country. That, to put it in perspective, is the worst in the OECD.
Promising to spend $250 million on 10,000 new chargers by 2030.
Where's the money coming from, Mr. Luxon? Like
where's the money coming from?
I don't have an EV. I'd love an EV one day, and I want to have a decent infrastructure when it's done. But where is the money coming from? It's $250 million.
The biggest issue and concern is actually range anxiety about will I be able to travel a country like New Zealand?
But the scheme to discount electric cars would be made more redundant than a hairnet on a bald man. The scheme is paid for by taxing polluters, and the Nats want to scrap that tax, which means no more discounted Teslas like the one Luxon's wife bought.
Why should people who can afford to pay actually get
like us?
Get a subsidy for an EV?
I think it's Orwellian to say that you're intending to hit, net zero by 2050 and at the same time roll back the most successful policies that are reducing our emissions right now. It's bonkers.
But the Clean Car Discount has smashed it out of the park for increasing EV uptake. Last month, 61% of new cars were electric or hybrids,
Nearly
and our
two-thirds.
emissions profile has dropped by a third on new vehicles.
Our future depends on reducing emissions. We've made international promises to do so by 2030 under the Paris Agreement.
We're deeply committed to delivering on net carbon zero 2050.
In a lot of ways, 2030 is actually more important than 2050. It's crucial we hit it. Because it's baked into our trade agreement with the EU, and New Zealand is looking at a $24 billion bill if we break the promise.
Yeah, but did you hear that last bit? If we don't hit it, there's a $24 billion fine. If we don't hit it by
We'll just borrow
2030.
some money from the Chinese.
We could probably just cut back all those people at MBIE and get 24 billion, couldn't we? That's probably what we need to do.
Steady the ship economically.
Luxon eventually got explicit.
Are you committed to that 2030 NDC?
We are committed to meeting our climate obligations and our commitments that we have laid out.
The National is yet to lay out its detailed plan for how it intends to meet our targets.
Looks like a pretty big zit, eh? Whatever he was just having in that thing, he squeezed away out of that. So, Chewy, you're the EV expert. I've got really only one question to ask you, but this is your area, baby. So have at it.
So this was my reaction when I saw that headline, right? I was like, oh, that sounds really good. Where are they getting the money from? Being that they have committed to getting rid of the ute tax.
Yeah.
Which is what funds the Clean Car Discount. And they want to get rid of that as well.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. The fact that the Clean Car Discount or ute tax has been enormously successful in motivating people to buy EVs.
For sure.
And yes, they're going to focus on the Teslas. They're going to focus on the ones that are $79,990. They just come under the subsidy. They ignore the purpose. It's to get more EVs into the national fleet and the second-hand market as well. And for as many of those high ticket cars get sold, there are probably 15, 30, 20, $15,000 EVs being sold. And he's losing sight of that. That's one of the things that's going to help us get here. The other part of it is that public EV chargers are rolling out at a rapid rate. Companies like ChargeNet, Z Energy, Zero. There's a whole bunch of providers out there building the networks. And the biggest thing that's stopping them doing it is the lines companies can't keep up. They can't keep up getting those super high voltage cables into the ground, into where people need them. And Dunedin's a great example. There's 3 public chargers for the entire city.
Yeah.
You know, there's other ones around like outside businesses, but they're all slow chargers and that sort of thing.
Let me jump in, but I also think that Dunedin's, because I've been to Auckland a lot this year because of Dad passing away. It feels like every 5th car is an EV. In Dunedin, it feels like every 20th car is an EV, or maybe even every 50th car. So I wonder if it's a chicken and egg. I wonder if Dunedinites don't see the infrastructure, so they don't do it, or Dunedinites aren't doing it, so they're not building the infrastructure, or if they're not related at all. Like it just felt, and I could be wrong, it's anecdotal, but it felt like driving through Auckland, there was so many more EVs per capita. Like on the motorway with 4 lanes, just felt like there was more of them compared to the number of cars.
And look, the Auckland fuel tax might be a big part of that.
Or just fuel in general. Like if you live at the end of the northwestern motorway and you're spending, $150 a week on fuel, there's deals going on at the moment where you can spend $100 a week and basically lease to buy a brand new EV. Why the fuck wouldn't you do that rather than putting $100, $150 a week? In Dunedin, where everything, like it's 9 minutes to the Octagon from everywhere. It's a bit different getting your money back on an EV that it would be in a place that you drive a lot further.
Yeah. And I mean, look, he's talking about range anxiety and that sort of thing. And like, if you look at the South Island, and especially our part of the South Island, there's not a lot of people, right? So surely there mustn't be a lot of charges. Well, I'm looking at getting an EV by the end of the year, and I looked at some of the common journeys that I would expect to be doing. And even in a lower range car that fits my budget, I would have no trouble traveling to Christchurch, Queenstown, Invercargill, down through the Catlins, that sort of thing. There are charges out there. They could be better, they could be faster. There's nothing wrong with having more, but I don't think this policy is the winner for anybody that really knows what's going on. Like the Facebook groups that I'm in for EVs are just brushing over it, going, yeah, sure, but there's never really too much trouble finding a charger. That's even backed up in the chat here. Mark G, I've had an EV for 2 years, waited for the subsidy before buying, and I've only had to queue for a charger once. So
which will obviously
you want to
change.
stay ahead of the curve. You want to stay
change.
ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
But BP and Z Energy have seen the light, and they're rolling out paid for charges because they can see the writing on the wall, right?
Yeah.
The businesses are going, oh shit, we better get that together. What I'd love to see is just a better policy. Like if National think that this policy, this clean car discount, all of that sort of stuff, the ute tax is a terrible policy, I'd love for them to come up with something that's more effective, right?
Well, on that, they did kind of say on one of the items, maybe it was on one, we didn't play one, did we? We played three. They did kind of say that Luxon might be clearing the floor to put National's own policy in place. Now, I don't think it's going to be a clean car rebate, but it might also be going, we're getting rid of all of that, because the obvious question, which no one seems to have asked, or at least haven't broadcast yet, is so the $250 million that you're putting into these this infrastructure, where's the money come from? Because all the other EV infrastructure and car money was coming from the ute tax and the dirty car tax. So where's yours coming from? So there might be more to come.
Because that was a double-edged policy, right? Reward people for buying the right thing, punish people for buying the bad thing, or disincentivize them to buying the bad thing. If I was a mean-spirited man, Pat, I would look at National's current run of getting consultation from stakeholders, and find out that they've come up with a new EV policy by asking BP what they think. And the fuel producers, what they think.
Yeah. Everything. Who's lobbied them? Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask Stephen Joyce been after?
Can I ask you my one question now?
Yeah, sure.
What was the name of the car that we took for a drive on Friday?
Hyundai Ioniq.
And it's about 60 grand retail in New Zealand?
Some versions of it, yeah.
The one we drove was about 60 because it was 2020.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
And you reckon, looking at the price of that vehicle around the world, it should be about 40?
Yeah.
So
here's my opinion.
So here's my question. When the EV rebate goes away, are the car companies going to drop their prices by 5 or 10 grand anyway? Because all of a sudden people are going to stop buying them because they don't have the rebate.
Yeah, I've seen two things happen, right? A lot of the manufacturers have gone, we've got to get, in the New Zealand market, we have to get this car to market, at least one of the models, one of the spec models, under that 79990 subsidy limit, right? Because that really gets people's attention. They know once it blows over there, you're not pitching at the same crowd. But at the other end, and I'm going to call out one company here that's quite surprising, BYD have done a big push in New Zealand on some of their actually pretty excellent EVs. Their more recent one, which is a biggish hatchback called the Dolphin, overseas, including in Australia, it's significantly cheaper than here.
Yeah.
And the feeling from people is that, yeah, sure, it's coming under 50 grand, which seems to be another price point where people really get interested in a brand new EV. but they're feeling that, hey, look, because this is almost 10 grand more expensive than in other markets, maybe this is the dealerships going, you know what, we can juice the price on this a bit because people know that they're going to get 7 grand off it. So they've already in their mind have a discount, right?
So so those that might retail for 85, they're dragging down to 79,995. But it also means those that may retail for 35, they're taking up to like 40 or 45 or something like that. So the car companies are doing this. So therefore, if there was no rebate, would you expect the lower car prices to drop a bit and the ones around the 79 to increase a bit?
I wonder. I would hope. I mean, I think, there's a lot of people out there, if they, a lot of people that would have looked at a secondhand car now are more considering a newer car, especially when it's a new technology like EVs, and they're looking at companies that are offering like 7 and 10-year warranties on a brand new car.
Yep.
Better safety features, all of that sort of stuff. I'm one of those people, right? 50 grand. Anything over there is a hard sell, but I can go from like a 23,000 secondhand Hyundai Ioniq, and it's very easy to go, if I spend a little bit more, it gets a bit newer. Oh, and suddenly, very quickly, I'm in new car territory and a new car that hasn't been available in the market for more than 6 months, and it's EV, and it's got all the bells and whistles. And I look at it and I go, yep, that's the ticket price, but I'm going to get 7 grand of that back. That's for someone that has to go and put the charging infrastructure in his garage.
Yeah.
That costs 5 grand.
Yeah.
So
that
encourages people, and the end goal is to get us less reliant on petrol and to get more vehicles into the fleet. And when parties like National concentrate on the guys going out and buying Teslas, there's a huge amount of the Tesla prices have dropped. They're around that $50,000-$60,000 mark as well. They share the same space with the Ioniq, and the Tesla Model 3 is a much better car, a much better spec car, a much more desirable car than the Hyundai Ioniq, which is a pretty sensible family sedan. So that's why I look at the Ioniq and I go, 40 grand, it's more attractive. North of 60, no way.
Let's have a look at some of the comments. Vicky says more money in Auckland to buy EVs, Pat. Maybe. I actually think I think it's the petrol. I really do. I'm thinking if you're spending between $100 and $200 a week on fuel in Auckland, an EV is a no-brainer. Even if you've got to buy it on tick, it's just a no-brainer.
You can buy a not terrible secondhand Nissan Leaf for 10 to 15 grand.
Yeah. Mitsubishi sale guy said in an interview today that the ute tax killed sales to private owners. SRM says clean car discount allowed me to buy hybrid for the wife, an EV for myself. It's good stuff. There's also a ton more texts that have come through there that I'm 80 texts behind. There we go. You've said a couple. Greens will help you generate your own electricity if possible. And the Weaving House said, I got stuck in a small South Island town Monday because the net charger was broken. Still not excited by national announcement. Yeah, I get it. We get it. Just remember as well, just to let you know and be blunt, super chats always go to the top of the line because there are so many people now chatting. It is easy for us to miss things. Not that we're saying you have to. We'll still use other chats, but if you really want yours to be mentioned, it's a way to highlight it for us. Okay, anything else? Now, and the other thing, obviously, if you're the owner of an electric vehicle company and you want to sponsor the show, me and Chewy could do a good job for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, if
Jaguar,
say we were talking about like if National were going to put on their big boy pants and actually come up with a more attractive package for encouraging people to drive EVs, like next year road user charges go on EVs.
Yep.
Which was always coming, but I think that would be a perfect opportunity to completely redesign the road user charges package, because, I know that there are rules around weight and that sort of thing. They need to look at that because there's a world of difference between, a little Nissan Leaf and what damage that does to the road compared to a much bigger, heavier vehicle.
When we heard the other day them talking about, and we played it here, that the trucking companies going, we need better roads. We're like, well, that's cool. You guys can pay for them. You're the guys who fuck it up. so you guys can pay for it. So yep, road user charges and diesel, that could make a huge difference. And then if Volvo has a fleet of electric trucks, if you have electric trucks, then you get to use those roads as well, and you don't have to pay the road user charges as much. We'll figure that out.
And
All right.
yeah, home power generation is a huge part of that. I'd love it if National saw the light on that, but they never will. And that's just a question of national resilience, in my opinion.
Let's get into this, eh? Friend of the show, Martin Bomber Bradbury, was hosting a debate last night on the Taxpayers Union TPU debate, and we're going to have a look at a few clips. David Seymour had just finished his regular one rule for all, and the treaty is wrong, and let's rewrite it, that whole spiel. And Damien Grant, of all people, then pushed him by asking him this question.
David, I agree with everything you've just said. The one area just wait.
Total surprise.
You're not an expert. Like what I have to say next. The one area where I disagree is that, because I think the principles are completely made up in 1975, and I don't think they exist in the treaty. But there are a lot of people who do.
Yeah.
And where you have a situation where there is at least the perception that there are principles of the treaty, there are two sides to this, the iwi and the Crown. If you hold a referendum, isn't that equivalent to one side of the treaty saying, we're going to redefine the terms? How do you reconcile that? Don't you need a different path to unwind the principles?
So it's actually a really good question, and it's a question that we've asked lots of times before. If you think about the treaty like a contract between two parties, one side can't go, oh, by the way, we're changing the contract and you're going to put up with it. That's basically the question he's just asked. Is that how you heard it, Chewy?
Yeah, that's actually the best point I've ever heard from a convicted source.
Well, it's like, imagine your bank coming to you and saying, oh, by the way, we've just decided, in the middle of your 2-year deal to change this to a 1-year deal and increase your rates. One side of a contract can't make all the changes without the other side's buy-in. That's what he's asking, and we'll hear David Seymour's answer.
No, because there's not one side of the treaty. There are people who are part of this country.
He's almost correct. There's not one side of the treaty. There's two sides that have to agree. He almost got it.
Whether they legally immigrated here or whether they're born here. And I think they have the right to have a say on the constitutional future of their country. You know, on the 14th of October, Australia will go to the polls in a referendum on the voice. The problem we have in New Zealand is that people have not been asked for 50 years. And when they talk about it, they're told that they're racist with no logic whatsoever. They're shouted down, they're cancelled, and they're told that they're not even allowed to have an opinion. I'm told I'm not allowed to have an opinion because of my identity and my background. I want an honest discussion based on facts and logic, not constant personal attacks.
There you go. There's a typical kind of straight up answer. You don't get much of that. What are your thoughts? That was an interesting question by Damien Grant, fair question, and a somewhat surprising question. Basically saying there's two, even if we disagree, which is what he was saying, there's two parts to a treaty. How can you decide unilaterally that it's just going to change?
I think the points that David Seymour, hold your water here, this might surprise you. I think the points that David Seymour were trying to make there was absolute bullshit, and he's got absolutely no grasp on the issue of what he was asked about. Like he's basically going, oh, there's people that have immigrated here and they deserve a say on the treaty. No. What? When does that happen? Do you immigrate to the US and every now and then they ask you what you think of the Constitution? No.
Well, but it's even different than that, because like, just remember again, if you think about the treaty like a contract between two parties, it's like having you've got a contract between you and your bank again, and your neighbor moves into their house and they start to have a say in the contract between you and your bank. So there's two parties. Let's make this really clear in case people are unclear. We live in a multicultural country that is based on a bicultural agreement. Right? So there is a bicultural agreement, and the bicultural part of that, the Crown and Māori, or the Crown and iwi, are the ones who nut this out. Migrants that come here, they get to live here, they get to do that, but there's nothing saying, that Fijians must have representation in government, or Americans or Canadians or English or Japanese. There is conversations around representation of Māori because they're part of the agreement.
Yeah.
So he nearly stumbled into it. He nearly got it right, but then it was like squirrel, and he went off in a different direction.
Yeah. I'd have I love what you said there. It's a multicultural country with a bicultural agreement, but it also say that is caged in by a European-centric structure.
Well,
a European democracy, a European, laws and lawmaking and that sort of thing, and that is going to stack the deck.
Yeah, no, but when I say possibly, I mean it depends which version of the treaty we're looking at. Now, the UN's made it clear that you must always go by the Indigenous Language Treaty, because obviously, Chewy, if me and you were going to, let's just pick a language we don't understand, German, right? Let's say we made an agreement with a German broadcasting company, and they wrote their contract in German, and then they wrote a version of it in English. And we read the English version, we went fine, and we signed it, and then we signed them both. Then we would be held accountable based on the one that we understood, which is the English version. That's why the UN has said in these sorts of cases, and there are other treaties around the world along the borderline of America and Canada, there are some, that you must base it on the Indigenous language version. So yes, a Eurocentric system we're living in now, but actually if you go to the treaty we should be working off, it should be the Indigenous language version, which is why people like Don Brash, I don't know about David Seymour, but the people who would do these sorts of things, and they constantly refer to the English version, get kind of caught out when you go, explain kawanatanga to me, or rangatiratanga to me, explain that to me. I have done this to Don Brash. I'll bring the clip one day, and he goes, I don't know what that means. And I'm like, well, how can you be an expert in the treaty when we're supposed to be using the Indigenous version of it for law, but you don't know what those words mean?
I'm only an expert in half the treaty. And it's this whole idea is that we must have a referendum when a lot of New Zealanders have a woeful understanding of what the treaty is. It's not really, it hasn't been taught in schools for the longest time. That we're starting to remedy that, and that's what's making everybody nervous. If we wait too long, the people that understand this too much, and the vote won't go the way that we want. And then he goes off on a tangent that he's going to be cancelled for saying this. No, people saying that you're a dumbass is not being cancelled. It's just people being honest.
Question that I'm going to highlight now is possibly the part where John Tamahere shone most of all. They're talking about co-governance. There was one of the sectors that they were talking about, and JT had some things to say about it. So this is just John Tamahere on co-governance.
John, three waters, co-governance and bilingual signs. Critics will cry, this is merification of New Zealand culture that erodes our one person, one vote democratic tradition, despite numerous legal cases and laws stating Māori do have specific Indigenous rights. Why are Pākehā so angry and frightened by Māori right now?
Oh, because of politicians like David. And the problem with his narrative, it's not based on the rule of law.
That's right.
And if the tyranny of the majority wants to take over the rights of a minority, that minority has a right to start to defend itself and stand up for itself. This nation was settled by consent, not by discovery, not by conquest, but by consent. Pākehā people are here by consent, and that's great. But they promised when they arrived that we'd be treated equally. That's Article 3. They promised when they arrived at Article 2, we'd have rights over our own domains. Simple as that.
We agree with that.
That's a very simple agreement.
You want to take away those
We
rights.
are still waiting for it to be adhered to. It's as simple as that. Now, when we say Taka Whāora, we want our own Māori Health Authority, we die 7 years in advance of white folk, that seems to be okay.
There's a line coming up, which is amazing. That's what I tweeted out today if you follow me on Twitter. It's amazing. When he starts to talk about how Pākehā spend money. It's just, honestly, it's almost breathtaking. This should be on our next T-shirt.
Well, it's not.
Okay. No one's
because
saying
the dollars are deployed in a way in which we don't get access to health. I'll give you one example. The capitation fund, I'm worth $400, all my kids are.
So the capitation fund, just to make it clear to people, is you get allotted money in your health, and the national health system kind of allots money to you. That gets allotted to your GP, and you just top it up, right? We all get $400 a year allotted to us. That's why you don't pay. It's like when you go to university, it's expensive, but you're not paying the full fee. The government subsidizes it. The government subsidizes our trips to the GP. It's called the just the name's down out of my head again. And this is what he's talking about now. And he goes on to say Māori can't afford to pay the top up, so they don't go to the doctor.
Capitation
for GPs.
When you go to a GP,
Right, gotcha.
then you pay a top up. The fact of the matter is, Māori don't get access to it because 60,000 Māori didn't go to a GP because they couldn't afford all the add-ons in the primary healthcare service in 2020. Now, that's not a fair health system. And it also costs a hell of a lot more to fix them than they are crook.
Was it only Maori people who couldn't afford to go to a GP?
Doesn't David have a point that the principles of the treaty really kicked in the 1975 Treaty of Waitangi Act?
This is the line.
There wasn't an awful lot of commentary around.
This is the line coming up.
Isn't
That's
that part of the
outstanding
problem?
from JT.
That we've got these treaty principles that are quite hard to define. And so we're getting into a situation where a long way from 1840 now, we are trying to interpret what people meant back then. Aren't we getting ourselves we're tying ourselves into a whole pile of knots when the issue should be issues based on need, not race?
No, it should be based on need, but the problem is it's based on race the way it's handed out at the moment. So all we want is our fair share of our per capita entitlements, and just stop Pākehā people spending it on our behalf, failing us, and then calling us failures. And the final thing I'll say about your prelude to your initial question is that there is no doubt that Māori contested the treaty all the way up to 75 and beyond. There's petitions. Look, it's legend throughout our whole history of parliamentary democracy that at no time did we leave a stone unturned. We have been on this march, and here's the other thing, we're never going to stop.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Jenny.
That was an outstanding point. And I tweeted.
That was really impressive.
I'm going to show the tweet because this is the line that he said, right? He said, stop Pākehā people spending, and he's talking about the finances from the Ministry of Health, so the money that's owed to them. Stop Pākehā people spending it on our behalf, failing us, then calling us failures.
God, that's hundreds of years of how we've been doing it. It hasn't been working. This is why I don't have a problem with any of this stuff. Like anything that Te Pāti Māori is saying, Three Waters, co-governance, all of it. Because the things that we've been doing haven't been working. They've been failing whole sectors of our population. And you can't just keep doing the same shit and expecting it to be different. And you can't keep doing that and expect the people that it's failing to be stoked about it. And then you can't come in and go, well, we're going to redraw the starting line here and we're all equal. And we're going to do it by doing a referendum. And there's more of us than there are of you.
I thought about this the other day.
Referendum.
It's a question for David Seymour. I heard him speaking on something the other day. I hear him in my dreams at the moment, unfortunately. Talking about, it's not good dreams. Talking about, I saw kind of, they didn't use these words, but kind of drawing a line under it and then we'll all be equal. And I was like, yeah, but if we're all equal, what happens to Māori who are already so far behind? Like I heard someone say once, there's a saying that goes something like, there are some people out there who think they've hit a home run, not acknowledging that they started on third base. Now, if we're all going to be equal and let's get rid of the treaty, just all be equal, then we all have to then start from the same place. But we're not going to if we get rid of the treaty. Those who are advanced are already going to be on third base, and many Māori are going to not even be on the field. They're going to be out in the car park waiting for the game to start. So for us to follow through on what Seymour wants, and ideologically, okay, don't have a problem with the thought. But practicality is, if we're going to start there, we all have to start, you just use the analogy of a starting line, at the same starting line. Someone can't be 20 kilometres down the way. Someone can't be 20 kilometres behind. And that's an impossibility. So as a protection for that right now, we have the treaty. Protection for Māori for that right now. They can still fall back on the treaty. If we get rid of it and do something else, then they're just going to be 20 kilometres behind the running race, or they're going to be in the car park and not even on the playing field and have no recourse whatsoever.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a couple of comments about libertarians being like all about contract law and property rights and stuff like that. I love what a myth that is. Like, you know, Damien Grant definitely followed contracts and stuff like that. Didn't do a fraud or two.
Okay, the next one's a very quick little clip, but it's a conversation about the anti-vaxxers and stuff that are in New Zealand First and the anti-vaxxer connections.
Was the mandates wrong?
Yes, according to our policy, we believe that the mandates should not have been there, and that should be removed immediately.
If only New Zealand First had somebody in a position of power at the time that they were.
Yeah, I think initially we didn't know what was coming down the pipeline. It was.
I think we've just found New Zealand First slogan. We didn't know what was coming down the pipeline. That should be their slogan for it for this year, I think.
It was brand new.
That's why we had the mandates.
And then when the science became evident, that was the time. But by then, 2020, the country voted for the Labour Party.
The podium of truth was there for all to see. So how did your leader miss what was happening? What was he doing at the time the mandate?
Well, at the beginning of COVID, when it came to New Zealand shores, Winston was sent back up north. So he wasn't on the podium.
Didn't have much choice on that, was he?
So there you go. That was just a quickie for you, Chewy. I also think that what she's saying, she's a former broadcaster as well. I think a TV3 newsreader. What they were saying is, you know, when finally we saw that the thing wasn't working as well, which was about 12 months ago, we should have got rid of them all, and we did. So actually, because remember when we went out of orange, that was at sort of at the time when it started to not be so effective in catching it, but it was still effective in stopping people from going to hospital. So she's saying that's when we should have done it, and it's kind of when we as a country did do it. But I wanted to share
if
that.
They lose that narrative. They don't want to lose that narrative. That's the only one they've got. We'll do the super chat now, just because we've got it relates to the co-governance as well. Jay says, I disagree with the bureaucracy of Three Waters. Mātauranga is a catch-all phrase. We need to adopt Mātauranga iwi hapu, which is nuanced and localized. Locality is the most critical aspect. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it would be interesting to see what that would break down and actually look like. I think it has been more localized into smaller regions than the ground one, but I think everything has pros and cons. Localized, you typically will get better service from someone you know. I don't mean literally know, but you know, you phone your council or whatever, but it costs twice as much. Centralized is sometimes a few more layers to get through, but it's a lot cheaper on the individual, you know, region, because you're buying 10 million widgets rather than 10 widgets. So I can see benefits from both. That's a really good point, though. I hadn't seen that before.
I still think it comes down to this idea that it's fairly clear that our Three Waters are rooted and we need to have them sorted out. And at the moment, people are like national, and most mayors have gone, no to Three Waters, but none of them have gone, oh, by the way, the addendum to that is, and you will be paying much more. No one said that part of the sentence. Like if all the mayors had gone, we're not going to go to Three Waters, but just so you know, your rates are going to increase 10% a year for the next 10 years, I wouldn't have a complaint, because that's a fair choice for ratepayers to then make. But they've just gone no to Three Waters. Zip. And that is actually disingenuous, dishonest, and hasn't helped out the community, Chewy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and that's why this election is really important. It's real fucking important because we've got to make progress on this while we can.
We've got one more clip to see, and this is a conversation around water rights, and then that moves into a conversation around how the National Party has changed its position on things like co-governance and things like Indigenous rights and things like water rights, right? And it wraps up with a lovely, I don't know if it's lovely, but a accusation made by Willie Jackson to David Seymour, which I won't tease just yet. I'll leave it and we'll get to it. So yeah, this last conversation, this last part is them talking about water rights, and then reflecting on, you know how people say in America, Chewy, this is not the Republican Party of this is not your father's or grandfather's Republican Party. This is not the Republican Party of the 1980s. Like today is not the National Party of freaking 8 years ago or 10 years ago. This is not Bill English's National Party. There's very different vibes from it. That's kind of where they go to in this. So we'll start with this conversation, water rights, etc.
There is water and a number of other things where Māori under the treaty may well have legal rights. So isn't in some ways co-governance an attempt to square that circle?
Well, we use it in the context of some treaty settlements, and what this government has done is turbocharged it into major decisions around public services.
So we're clear, Damien Grant's just said, if we have a treaty, co-governance is, he said in a different way, is basically honouring that treaty agreement in some way, isn't it? That's what he's asked.
Finlayson supports that.
We don't agree
No,
with taking it.
your former minister.
And so
Read his book.
So the basic proposition with the three...
You must have read the wrong chapter.
The basic proposition with the three waters thing is to give 50-50 decision-making. We don't think that the treaty requires 50-50 decision-making between two sets of people, because we're all New Zealanders and we should have an equal say.
But again, as you said before, we're all New Zealanders, so recent migrants should have an equal say as to Europeans who have been here since the 1850s, as to Māori who have been here for 800 years. We should all have the equal say. I actually don't agree with that. I don't agree. You get off a
nonsense statement.
Yeah,
though?
I don't agree that you get off a plane. You know, I welcome you, migrants welcome, but you get off a plane, you've been here for 6 minutes, and you've got the same input into issues that can shape and form New Zealand as generational iwi and that who have been here, along with generational, Pākehā Europeans as well. This doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. You don't go to the movies and you turn up, 10 minutes after it starts and get to go to the front of the queue. There is a process to follow through as well.
I just don't understand. It's like, I don't know if I'm misunderstanding what he said there, but it's just like, oh, we've got an agreement with two people, but we're all New Zealanders now. That's so what does that mean? That we don't need to do the treaty? We've done the treaty and now we're all together, so we don't need to follow the treaty because we're not two different people anymore. There's only one people. So the two people that signed the contract, irrelevant. Like, that's what that sounded like to me.
Yeah, well, we'll keep going. We'll keep listening.
Jackson correct that it was under the last government, Chris Finlayson, who did some fantastic work, but didn't he open the door to this issue?
Yeah,
and now that it's opened, how do you close it?
Of course he did.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between a co-governance arrangements for the volcanic cones in Auckland in the context of a treaty settlement and saying that you should have two separate health systems with 50-50 decision-making. And when it comes to the water,
that's
how
not what they're
that's
saying,
controlled in the sewage in your city, it's 50-50 decision-making based on ethnicities.
Thank you, Paul. Willie Jackson. Co-governance was a structure created by Act and National to build a management process to manage shared assets. How the Christ did an attempt to give Indigenous people a voice in their own country become manufactured into an existential race crisis where Western democracy itself was suddenly at risk? Your time's up now.
David Seymour's fault again. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You know, the saddest thing I've been hearing was him again talking about how he knows more than all the judges of the last 50 years.
No, I gave Willie Jackson some stick earlier in the show. This is very good. This is very good.
I just can't get over it, David, how you think you know more than Lord Cook in 1987, who was the most learned judge in the history of New Zealand judges, how you know more than Sean Elias. I can't get over how you know more than Bill English, more than John Key, You know more than Jim Bolger. You know more than Doug Graham. You're without doubt the Donald Trump of New Zealand politics, because Trump. No, but here's the thing, Bomber. Trump did the same thing. The judges don't know anything. Every court, every appeal court, every Supreme Court, the Privy Council have all said how Māori have Indigenous and treaty rights. They've all said it. John Key, one of his heroes in 2010, stood up and talked about Indigenous rights. I do not get I do get the Seymour strategy because it's about gathering votes. But you put, this judicial system's in place, Māori believe in it. But oh no, if there's a ruling going our way, old Seymour and his mates all want to get rid of all the judges, all the prime ministers, all the governments who've supported partnership. It's a total disgrace.
To be fair, though, Willie, Nelson Mandela would also vote for him.
Well, the funny thing is I met Nelson Mandela.
What did he say?
Well, I reckon he'd say, lock David Seymour up.
Thank you.
There you go. There's the end of it. And like I said, fair's fair. I gave Willie some stick earlier, but this idea that David Seymour knows more than all of those people. Sean Elias, oh my gosh, it's a very, very interesting point. A very, very interesting point. A lot of people are disagreeing with me. Someone saying that was the best line. Fair enough. I'll take that. I thought John Tamihere's was, but I get it. That was a very good attack, and that's what it was, Chewie. And that's all my clips.
There's so much I'm worried about this election. There really is. But one of the main ones is how much this is tugging at, I guess, key fibers of our society. And I think there's been so much progress made over the last, let's say, 15 years in race relations in this country, and acknowledging the treaty and getting people to understand the things that happened in the past, that I would hate to see this derailed, put back by people that are just cynically trying to come up with essentially a race war. Just to get votes. That's why I push back on this stuff so hard when you got someone like Julian Batchelor just doing an endless figure eight of the country, stirring up fuckwits. Acts are playing into that same field. And they're weaponizing some of the stuff that people will go, well, of course we want equality. Of course we want equal rights. Who wouldn't want that? And it's just the unnuanced just bile that they put into that discussion, rather than any sort of, well, let's actually sit down and look at the building blocks of what got us here. Are all of those building blocks fair? Was everyone playing a straight bet? Fuck no. When did we start to realize? The 70s? We've got a long way to go.
Yeah. Mr. Anderson, Chris Finlayson, was astoundingly sharp.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. I think that's true. Spidey's I have my Spidey senses tingling. Nat's always use analogy that are 100% irrelevant to the actual topic they are trying to make an analogy of. Someone says, thanks for broadcasting that, Justin. Oh, that's no problems. It's what we do. We watch it so you don't have to, and we'll bring you the highlights of it. Now, just speaking of that as well, Justin and anyone else who's watching, tomorrow night is Thursday. On Thursday, we open the Discord. So we'll open the Discord tomorrow night, and much like we did last night, we'll give away some merch. And if you want to come and have actually a chat with us about any of these topics we've talked about this week, or anything else that's coming up. So tomorrow night, normally sometime between 9:30 and 10, we open up Discord, and if you want to give us a call, what do you even say? Give us a call, whatever it is. Then we will do that tomorrow night. So if you want to have a chat with us, if you want to bring some of your own thoughts up, you can do that. Simon says, I don't like the Taxpayers Union, but I have to be grateful that they've been hosting these debates. And Rajan,
I detest the Taxpayers Onion, and
the 100%. Taxpayers Onion. Did you just say the Taxpayers Onion?
I did, because they aren't a union.
And I said Winston Penis. Tamihere had the best performance overall, but Willie had the best and worst moments. Yeah, that's probably fair. I get that. And great show tonight. Thank you very much, Deb. Appreciate hearing from you all. Right, so we're pretty much done for the night. Oh, thank you. I am GF. I am good for a super chat.
Girlfriend.
Thank you.
I am girlfriend.
I'm girlfriend. Probably Ian. Might be someone called Ian that got the M wrong. Appreciate the super
I don't
chat.
know.
Well done.
I think this is the start of a catfishing thing where they're saying, I am girlfriend now.
$10. Happy to
Yeah,
do whatever you like for $10. See you on my. I forgot the name of the word. The word of the name. What is it called? Where you show your feet?
Oh, feet pics. You forgot your OnlyFans. Your
That's
only
it.
feet.
That's what I was thinking for. My OnlyFans page. To get
we
there.
got there, didn't we?
Appreciate this. Yeah, you know my dirty mind. So that's what we're doing. Thank you. Appreciate that. That was really good. Now, actually, I just noticed Carl talking about buzzword bingo, and I think that might relate to this too. Let me just do this to wrap up the show to give people a heads up because I only found this out today.
We've still got my tangent to come.
TVNZ confirms election night coverage, debates, and times.
Oh, what are we doing?
The first live debate will take place between Chris Hipkins and Christopher Luxon on September 19th, 7 p.m. TVNZ1 and TVNZ Plus. So I think that's Tuesday week. I'm pretty sure that's Tuesday week.
What is it?
So I suspect what we'll do on that night, team, is we will be live at 7 p.m. We will open up the Discord during the ad breaks. So if you want to jump in and have a chat about what's going on, we'll open up the Discord. Obviously, we won't play the adverts, but we'll live stream the debate. We'll comment on the debate. We will give you a chance to comment on the debate. We'll watch it all together. And we won't, just so you know, we won't be doing like we do with the clips, like talking over it or pausing it and stopping it. We'll let them get to the end of their bits. And then we'll have a chat about it. So you'll just be watching it with us. Although maybe in saying that if it's being streamed, we probably can pause it and then push play again. It'll just time slip behind it. So there's your first one. And there's a bunch of other ones as well. There's a young voters debate. There's exploring the issues that matter to Māori most of all. And then Jack Tame steps up to moderate the multi-party debate. So, and then there's going to be a second and final leaders debate 2 days before polling day. I mean, that's going to be fun to watch, but I think everyone's made up their mind by then. So put it in your diary, team. We'll give you lots of heads up as we get to it. But the first one's, I think, Tuesday week. It's going to be at 7 p.m. I've been looking around News Hub. I haven't seen what they've got going on. Other places sometimes do them. I think the press does one as well. We will be.
God, as long as it's not Paddy Gower moderating, that was the
probably will be. And probably on that night, we'll do that live. And we might come back at 9 o'clock as well with a couple of guests. So like Simon Wilson wants to come and talk to us about it. And so we might just do the debate. We might cut out and then come back and then have a chat about the debate and get some clips together and that kind of thing. RNZ usually do one, says Free Soul. Cool. Yep. And we'll just be Chloe and Rawari tag teaming against Seymour. Yeah, that'd be fun. So we'll keep you up to date with what's going on with that, but we're done for tonight. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you all. Tomorrow night, join us, bring a friend. We want to see the numbers double tomorrow night. And if you want to have a chat with us on Discord tomorrow night, we'll release all the Discord URL just before we get going. Remember, if you want to get some merch delivered to you free, head to bhnshop.nz. Tonight's promo code for free delivery is 22 degrees because it was 22 degrees in Dunedin tonight. And other than that, we're done. Appreciate you all. Anything else? Oh, do you have a tangent? You said you had a tangent. Do you actually have a tangent?
I do have a little bit of tangent. You kind of ruined it a little bit there because we did get, where are your guys' funding coming from? You're not even centered on anything with Labour and incredibly biased. Well, as Pat's just mentioned, our funding comes from hoodies and he'll be hand delivering them as he travels up the country.
I don't understand. You're not even centered on anything with Labour. What does that even mean? I genuinely don't understand what this person's talking about. You're not even centered on anything with Labour and incredibly biased. Now, people have been doing this. Bias has got a D, hasn't it? Biased. Aren't you biased? Or you show bias?
No, I think both works.
I'm not trying to take the piss about the lovely 14-year-old who's messaged us there, Liam. I'm saying genuinely, I don't have a clue what he's talking about. You're not even centered. I'm not centered. I'm way off.
Yeah.
So, but let me just say something to that then, right? I can see the people leaving. I've been having a conversation with someone on Twitter the last day or so talking about bias, and I'm like, yep. And it's like you don't minimize somebody's position because of a bias. You minimize their position because they're wrong, right? We sit on the left. We're not embarrassed about that. We say that overtly. We put it out there. And if we get something wrong, negate our point. You don't get to negate someone just because they sit on the left or on the right, or because they're, a socialist or a capitalist or whatever. You get to negate their point if they're wrong. This is an opinion-based news commentary show. Of course there's going to be bias. It's what you do. Imagine if it wasn't. The only people that shouldn't really or don't show bias are pretty much news readers. I mean, journalists can show bias as well. It's obvious where some journalists come from. But if they're doing straight news, obviously none of that rainbow stuff, straight news or news readers, that's about the only place you shouldn't see bias. In other words, reporting news is the place you shouldn't see a bias. Everything else, there's bias and opinion in. What are you laughing at, Joey? What's happened?
It was just supposed to be a funny wee segue to Hock's abilities to keep us going.
Sorry, did I ruin it?
You off on a tear, and yeah, it's fine. It's a 90-minute show. 90-minute.
We've ticked over. All right, team.
Guys.
Love you to bits. We'll see you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. for another edition. Remember, come join us in Discord tomorrow night. Even if you don't want to talk to us, you can still listen to us in Discord as well. And we will catch you when we catch you. Be safe, everybody. Catch you tomorrow night. All the best. And hooroo.
Cheers, folks.